Hello and welcome back to The Story Behind the Story. I'm your host, Brian Smith. Today we step into one of the most haunting and controversial mysteries of our time. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann. It was May 3rd, 2007. The setting, a family holiday in Praia, Portugal. A picturesque seaside town, the kind of place families flock to for peace and safety. But on this night, the world would be introduced to a case that has never been solved and has left more questions than answers. Madeleine McCann, just 3 years old, was left in the family's holiday apartment while her parents, Kate and Jerry McCann, both physicians, dined with friends at a nearby tapas restaurant. They claimed they checked in on the children periodically. Madeleine, along with her younger twin siblings, was asleep in the apartment. But when Kate McCann returned to the room close to 10 p.m., she raised the alarm. Madeleine was gone. And here's where the story begins to fracture. The parents insisted almost immediately, within moments, that their daughter had been taken. Not wandered off, not hidden under a blanket, not simply missing in the apartment. Taken. That certainly has troubled investigators and skeptics alike. How could they know so quickly? Authorities scoured the area, but evidence of a break-in was weak at best. No forced entry, no solid trace of an intruder. The window and shutters said to have been opened showed signs of being tampered with after the fact. What the evidence seemed to say was chilling. Madeleine may never have left that apartment alive. British sniffer dogs were later brought in. The results were disturbing. The dogs detected the scent of blood on the apartment carpet. More tellingly, they alerted to the odor of a human corpse in the McCann's rental car, obtained weeks after Madeleine's disappearance. These findings added fuel to a growing suspicion. Was this a staged crime? Chief Inspector Goncalo Amaral, the Portuguese detective in charge, came to believe so. His theory was straightforward but damning. Madeleine had died in the apartment, possibly due to an accidental overdose of a sedative administered by her parents. And in a panic, they staged an abduction to cover up what had really happened. Amaral wasn't the first investigator in history to suspect the parents in a child's disappearance. Crime history is full of similar stories. Dr. Sam Shepard, accused of staging his wife's murder scene in 1954. Jeffrey MacDonald, the Army doctor whose tale of intruders killing his family unraveled under scrutiny, 1970. Darlie Routier, convicted of killing her sons while claiming a man broke in. The John Benet Ramsey case, still unsolved, with its haunting ransom note and theories of parental involvement. Even Lizzie Borden, back in the 1890s, another story where an intruder was the convenient explanation. The parallel is undeniable. Again and again, the mystery intruder looms large in family tragedies. But as history shows us, the evidence often whispers another story. The McCanns, as physicians, had access to medications. Witnesses have said Madeleine was sometimes sedated lightly to help her sleep. Could an accidental overdose have occurred that night? Was the scene then crafted to look like a kidnapping? And if an intruder had truly entered, why leave the two sleeping twins untouched? Logic strains at that scenario. And yet the McCanns not only remained free of charges, they became global figures. Their story touched millions and donations poured in. They received hundreds of thousands of dollars in support, later published books, and made media appearances. They even had a meeting with the Pope. To some, it looked like grieving parents trying desperately to keep their daughter's case alive. To others, it looked like profiting from tragedy. Their interviews and public statements were scrutinized endlessly. Experts pointed to language that seemed rehearsed, inconsistent, or laced with subtle admissions. Words, as much as evidence, told a story, and many believed those words revealed guilt. The world was divided. Some rallied to the parents' side, convinced they were victims of a cruel abduction. Others felt in their bones that the truth was far darker and much closer to home. Today, nearly 2 decades later, Madeleine's fate is still officially unsolved. She would be a young woman now. Instead, her name lives on in news stories, in books, in documentaries, in whispered suspicions. And the central question remains, was this the work of a shadowy intruder, or the tragic outcome of a terrible accident hidden beneath layers of denial and deception? When you look at the history of similar cases, the patterns, the cover stories, the money trails, the story behind the story becomes hard to ignore. Polls showed large numbers of people, especially in Europe, believed the McCanns were involved in their daughter's disappearance. The case became more than a missing child story. It became a cultural debate about parenting, privilege, power, and truth. And through it all, one fact remains. No trace of Madeleine has ever been found. Nearly 2 decades have passed since that night in Portugal. Madeleine McCann would be a young woman today, living a life that was stolen before it began. Was she taken by a shadowy stranger? Or was her disappearance the result of a tragic accident hidden beneath layers of lies? The evidence whispers, the history echoes, and the truth, if it is ever fully revealed, may not be the story the world wants to hear. And that's the story behind the story of the Madeleine McCann disappearance. I hope you found it as fascinating as I did. The echoes of the past are waiting to be heard. My name is Brian Smith, and we are history. Thank you for listening.